What's going on, good people? This is your commissioner. There we go. Your commissioner of the RetroActive family of leagues, Brennan Keys, giving you your first 2024 RetroActive Purple recap, the rap recap. Pretty much everybody's been in RetroActive before that's in rap, so you know what it is. For the most part, it's just been a super busy year. I've been all over the place, adding on a third league, as well as participating in all three leagues, and another league outside of RetroActive has just been a lot. Along with I'm back in school, stuff going on with the fam, with marriage, with work, just a lot. So forgive me for not being on point with these reviews for these different leagues. As I mentioned, week one, I'm going to strive to do my individual league recaps, recorded, pre-recorded, and post those. And then Wednesday night, we can do just a live chat, talk ball, talk trash, response, whatever it is I said, whatever. We'll do it like that. And I'll post each individual league recap in each individual Discord channel, as well as on Facebook. So here we go. I'm going to just hop right into it. As I'm reviewing, I don't have much prep with this. But I'm reviewing the standings here for rap, looking at these legacy division names, which it brings a smile to my face just knowing we've been at this for 12 years now, 11 years, 11 or 12 years, something like that. I know it's 2013 to 2022, 2020. It's this year 12 that we're working on. All of these division names came back from year one or at some point throughout the process. Rap is the legacy league. For those who don't know, this league has been the one that's around the longest. Back when it was just RetroActive and there were no colors, it was just RetroActive fantasy football. So, yeah, it's interesting looking at these records, right? Deuce 2-1 in America's teams, which he has generally been a strong member of his division, whatever division that has been historically. Nothing too surprising there. I believe he is the highest scoring owner in rap right now. He is. He has 789 points through week 3. And your boy, the commissioner, has the second highest point total in rap thus far with 778 points. And I'm 2-1 in my division. I got very lucky this past week. I'm not even going to cap. I played one of, if not the greatest champion in RetroActive history thus far, Cortez Jackson, in week 3. And it literally came down to the 2 Monday night games between the Bengals and the Commanders, as well as the Bills versus the Jags. I happen to have Josh Allen, who helped me pull out a tremendous victory. I also had Saquon, who I'm watching the recap on the replay of right now against the Saints. He had another crazy game. 65-yard touchdown run in the third quarter, which before that he wasn't really doing much of anything for me. But that put me in striking range with Tez, and then Josh Allen going crazy on the Jags Monday night put me into the lead. And then I had to get a couple other points from Logan Wilson and Cam Taylor-Britt in the other Monday night game. And I ended up pulling out a 2-point victory. Now, the stat corrections say that it's possible for stat corrections to take place up until a week after the game in which the stat correction would take place. So the Monday night game, I might not know for sure if I have the win for sure, because of how close the final score was until next Monday night. 2 points could swing either direction in a week. So we'll see. Along with all the other games from this past Sunday. But as of now, I got the dub. I've long had success against Tez in the regular season and all our interdivisional matchups through the black hole. But the playoffs is what's going to really matter. He's already stated out of his mouth he don't really care about the regular season. He's not worried about getting the number 1 seed or winning his division. He wants to focus on winning in the playoffs and getting his team ready to win in the playoffs. So I'm not getting too excited about the matchup. I was excited in general just to win a matchup where I was projected to lose by almost 100 points. At one point, I was projected for like 214, and he was projected for like 304. And his projections just fell. Mine went up as my guy showed up. So I was more excited about the performance of my team when it came down to crunch time. What's going on out there? My bad. So yeah, that put me to 2-1. It actually dropped him to 0-3. I am surprised to see that. Historically, not the best drafter. However, trades, free agent acquisitions, monitoring the wire, doing all the study that he always talks about. I wasn't expecting to see him start 0-3. So that's surprising. And then his quote-unquote baby mama, who he has been trading with in recent years and getting some good deals off with, Kevin Grabowski, he's also 0-3. Another former champion. Also surprising to see at the bottom of his division, which is the Frozen Tundra, led by the defending champion, Queen Janine Elizabeth Truesdale, who is 2-1. 3-way tie for the division lead at 2-1 between Janine, CJ, and Rob Jordan. So that's a very, very tough division right now. It's too early to say toughest, worst, all of that. Although I'm always going to cape for the black hole. We just got some people weighing the division down right now. They got to step it up. But we'll get that corrected. America's teams also has a 3-way tie for the top of the division. Highest score takes the tiebreaker, which is currently Deuce. But Zach Stevens and David Wilson, D-Will, also have 2-1 records. So just going to get into some of the scores I thought were interesting. I'm not getting into the weeds with the players unless it was like some otherworldly performances or like really significant performances. Rob Jordan was the first one to give Kevin a loss in week 1. CJ gave Janine her only loss thus far in week 1, a 283 to 237 score. He had a really, really good performance all the way around from his roster that week. Similarly, Zach was the only one to give Deuce a loss thus far. Interdivisional loss, 270 to 262. That was a close matchup in week 1. And honestly, Deuce hasn't had any issues since then. The score has been pretty consistent in the 250 plus range. I got my 5-point victory over Juan. Another nip and tuck game. All of my matchups have been pretty well scored on my end, but I did end up taking the L the following week, last week, to the defending champion Janine, where she had her team went crazy. I forget what the score was. Let me see. She lumped me up pretty bad. 309.14 to 267. So she got me by 40 points, even though I put up 267. Can't be mad about that one in the regular season. This team's still putting up the consistent score. That's what I need them to do. And I think I constructed a pretty good roster through the draft. Let me see what else. Week 1. Harrison, welcome to rap. Came out with a bang. Started off with a bang, beating Tez and giving him the first loss of the season in a close matchup, 243 to 238. All of Tez's matchups have been pretty close, I think. Week 3 that I just talked about. Week 1 here with Harrison, and then week 2 he played who? Week 2 was not close. He lost to D Will, 238 to 206. But I don't believe he's out of contention with how he's been scoring and the pieces that he's been adding. It's just been relatively quiet from Tez in the trade front. Haven't heard him talk about any trades. Haven't been any trades made. I just made the second trade in rap this year, which 3 weeks into rap is unheard of for it to only be 2 trades across the whole league. Very, very interesting. I can't remember the last time we've gotten almost a month into the regular season of fantasy, and there's only been 2 trades in rap across the whole league. But it is what it is. Thank you, Kevin, for TJ Watt. I appreciate it. And we're going onward and upward. I wish you the best with those pieces that you acquired. I've traded TJ Watt. I got TJ Watt. He got Will Anderson, Micah McFadden, and Kyle Hamilton. Hamilton was hard to let go of, but I think it'll be worthwhile. I think it's somebody I can try to replace. So going back to these scores here, week 1, Black Rob, as always, leading his division. Not leading his division currently because Sip is 3-0, but always contending for his division. Started off with a win against Jordan, Ray Loco's band of misfits. Lost to the TaylorMade Thoroughbreds, 233 to 208. The only reason, well, I'll say the only reason, but Sip was in the championship game last year, Devon Tingle. So it's not too surprising that he's 3-0 this week or this season thus far. I was honestly shocked with the Geno Smith drafting in the 3rd round. That's still, I mean, you found a way to pull it off. And to your point, which is fair, as we talked about it last season or this off season, I can't remember, but you have always been underestimated, bro, and you've always been misrepresented. That's a fair assessment, because even as we think about the history of Sip and RetroActive, a lot of people remember him as being a worse owner than he actually has been historically. If you go through his entire history from his first season, I think 2014 to now, Sip has always been a contender. Maybe most of the time, middle of the pack. But if he gets into the playoffs, he's gotten his pounds of flesh. He's lumped people up, and he's had some good seasons with good records. He's had some division championships, and he was in the championship game this past season. So kudos to you for starting 3-0. Putting it together with what many would consider a stretch as your 3rd round pick in rap, but you making it work for you. So kudos to you for that. And you got a week 1. Well, now let's talk about this since I brought up Sip. And I'm only talking about this season because I don't have the historical context that other owners may have and remember. I can't just recall like that. But this season, as I look at your score, Sip, you beat Quentin, which Quentin is on the highway to relegation. He's not on the road. He is in the fast lane on I-70 to relegation, going 90. All right. You beat him by 10 points. He put up 171. You really barely beat him by 181. But a win is a win. Win is a win. Right? Week 2, you ended up playing D Block Penitentiary. You beat Quincy, who is, if Quentin is in the fast lane to relegation, Quincy is in the middle lane, right next to him. They're neck and neck. All right? You beat him 222 to 214. 222 is not a terrible score, but, it's in week 2 of the regular season, it's nothing that people really fear, right? When everybody's healthy and everybody's supposed to be active. You put up 222, and you beat somebody to put up 214. All right. Week 3, my brother, Sip. You had a great score. A 254 against a perennial championship contender, perennial division winner, Black Rob. And Black Rob was talking. You made sure to do what you do at the school of chill. Just, kick back, put your feet up, flipped another page. Probably smoked your cigar, took a sip of your drink, and just folded your arms and said, I got this. And you got a quality win. I would call that one a quality win with a quality score against a quality opponent, 254 to 201. So it'll be interesting to see the progression of the season down the road. If the team is getting stronger and stronger, especially as Derrick Henry is coming along. That was his highest scoring output of the season so far. First 2 games were kind of rough. The offense is still kind of acclimated to his running style. I've been a fan of him or championing him lining up in the backfield, get downhill, as opposed to being in the shotgun and doing zone read stuff. And I think the Ravens are figuring that out. That'll make your offense deadly if between him and Lamar Jackson, that box gets lightened and he can have as much of an impact as he wants to have and as the Ravens want him to have. That'll make your fantasy team scary. And it'll make your team really scary. And I'm sure that's why you drafted him, not just because you're a Ravens fan, but also because of the benefit that he could be for that offense. Going back, I looked at week 1. Week 2, I mentioned my L to Janine. Super close loss for Kevin in a tight matchup to Deuce, 236 to 238. That was probably the matchup of week 2. But Deuce pulled out the victory. Zach got one of his 2 wins, a 227 and 211. Another one of those kind of wins. So that Sip, you don't think I'm being biased against you. I honestly was expecting Zach to be in that relegation race, no shade. But Zach's defense is balling. In this particular matchup in week 2 against Quentin, 3 guys led his team in scoring from his defense. So he's holding on, he's fighting hard, but as he has dealt with in seasons past, like the past few seasons, Zach's dealing with the injury bug. So, hey, look, my office is open. You know what I got on the block. Holla at me, Zach. Holla at me. We can try to get your team right. All right. That's taking off the commissioner cap, putting on the owner cap. Now I'm putting back on the commissioner cap. Harrison got his 2nd win of the season against Jordan. A built-in rival, being that Jordan brought Harrison into the RetroActive family. Jordan not having such a great year to start, being that he drafted Caleb Williams with some intentions of working that out for the long term. Hasn't worked for him thus far. 224 to 198. He took the L to his protege and eventually dropped. Oh, Kamara got hurt. I don't remember that. Eventually dropped Jordan to 1-2 after this past week. That was his 2nd loss. So he got his first win this week. We'll talk about that. CJ got another impressive victory 2 weeks in a row, week 1 and 2, after beating the Quiet Juan. I'm going to start calling him the Quiet Juan. The Quiet Juan. Not the Quiet One. The Quiet Juan. Because ever since the draft, Juan Redmond has been MIA. So if you know where Juan is, if you've heard from him, if you talked to him, please tell him to show up in the chat. Please tell him to report to the live stream or in some way, shape, or fashion to acknowledge that he's still alive and all is well. Because he's making moves on the wire. He's submitting waiver claims. But MIA when it comes to the chat. Very interesting coming from him, being how active in the chat he was throughout the offseason and previous seasons, and how much it seemed like he was getting back into the swing of things with fantasy. And then you pop out and rap after a relatively long hiatus. and you're 1-2 and quiet. The quiet wine. 266 to 231. CJ got the dub. Very impressive roster construction. CJ is probably going to go down in retro history as the the ultimate success story of a fantasy football owner. How you can go from nothing to something with some time invested. I liken him to the Detroit Lions last season. I would say even more so now. The Lions were considered the favorites for the NFC North, but I tried to tell people about those Minnesota Vikings last season. Nobody wanted to listen to me. The only reason that they didn't complete their story last year was because Kirk Cousins got hurt. Otherwise, they would have been what they are now with a healthy, competent quarterback. I also told y'all about Sam Darnold too, because everybody kept crapping on him. I said, just put him in the right situation with somebody who trusts him and believes in him and watch what he does. He was too talented to get drafted that high for no reason. Same thing we're seeing with Baker Mayfield. Same thing we've seen with Geno. Same thing we're seeing with Malik Willis in a limited stint in Green Bay. A lot of these quarterbacks just need somebody that's going to believe in them and build around them and support them. And you'll see how good they actually are. But I digress. I liken CJ to the Detroit Lions because of the history of the Lions and how they've been viewed by generations of fans as a perennial losing team or bottom of the league, bottom of the division, basement dwelling team. And they've, over the course of 2 or 3 seasons, become a division power and an NFC contender. And very similarly, CJ has been that story for RetroActive, particularly for rap. Normally towards the bottom of the league in record and in performance, but over the course of 2 or 3 seasons, he went to division contender, playoff participant, and championship contender, division winner. And now he's popping out with a 283 and a 266 to start the season. So kudos to you, bro. I love to see it as the commissioner, as your friend. Very, very impressive to see that transformation and that turnaround. And, hopefully I'll see you in the playoffs or in the championship. Like, I want to meet you there. You know what I mean? Week 2, also, Black Rob put up the highest score of the season so far, the early part of the season, a 321. Smacked around Rob Jordan almost by 100 ball, but 321 to 230. Not a bad score from Rob Jordan, but he just didn't have any chance in week 2. Fred Warner went crazy for 37 points. Chris Godwin is bike, 27.2 points, especially now that they've got him in his more natural role of motioning him into the slot, moving him around and getting some routes schemed up for him outside of just being static on the outside. And then Jalen Hurts gave him 25 points in that matchup. 321 is a great score to put up in week 2. We will see if that can be if he can be close to that as the season wanes on and attrition happens, players' performances start to stabilize and injuries and all of that stuff. But 2-1 is 2-1. Black Rob, always a strong owner in his history in retro. And then D Will got a win against Tez as well, the 238 to 206, which I think brought him to, I don't know what his record was at that time, but currently 2-1. And then week 3, and I will get out of here. Janine got her win, 225 to 203 against Kevin. Down weeks for both of them, but it might not be such a down week for Kevin. It might be closer to normal, just being that the roster he's currently fielding has a lot of holes, not a lot of depth. There may have been some missteps on the draft that needed to be corrected. I tried to help out with my trade. I really wanted to get Reese, but he didn't want to cooperate, so I just got what I could get with TJ Watt, because TJ Watt was supposed to be a roller from day one, and he knew that. So thank you for correcting that that era. Um, Janine 2-1 after that matchup, and very well may have been able to acquire another piece with the news that came out today of Alex Singleton getting hurt for the season, which I didn't know he was injured after this past game for the Denver Broncos. Being able to get his potential replacement in Quan Alexander would be another unnecessary and unfair piece for the roster the quality roster she's already constructed. Continuing her championship defense in a strong fashion so far with 2-1 record. Rob Jordan got his second win of the year in night and day performance from CJ, 214 to 198. The Jump Out Boys lost to Rob's Devil Pugs. Not sure what happened in that matchup for CJ. Just had guys not show up. Not saying he should have been putting up 240, 250, 260 every week, but to jump down to 198, I'm sure there were some gaps there. And again, in weeks in weeks to come, I'll go more in depth with scores, players, matchups, and things like that. I'm just giving a recap to get myself back on track so that I can get myself into a rhythm and get this ball back rolling. D Will popped out with a 260 in week 3 to beat Zach, who had a 196. The Chicago Rock Stars against the NoCo Dogs. Sam Darnold has solidified himself as a high-end fantasy starter, and D Will is the beneficiary of that. He led that team that week with 30 points. Douche went 288 with defense, and 43 points from Jawan Jennings, which I don't think anybody saw that coming. I knew that he was going to have a solid performance. I was like maybe 60, 70 yards, but my man went for 170, 3 tubs. Is it raining? Is it raining? I can't see. It don't look like it. But yeah, 43 points from Jawan Jennings to lead the Kimball Nightmare, spelled with a K, Knight, Nightmare, against D Block Penitentiary, 222. And the crazy thing about this score, which I remember speaking on, I think in the main chat, was there were like 3 players of note for Deuce's roster who did not play, and yet he still got a 288. I know Cooper Kupp was one of those players. Go back to week 3 here. And then he did not get any quality contributions from J.K. Dobbins, who had been on fire to start this season. He did not get any quality contributions from CeeDee Lamb, who only gave him 5.7 points. So he had 3 of his offensive hitters basically give him nothing, and he still got a 288. Very, very impressive. Also a former champion back in the day, the year after I got my title. I got that win against Tez I talked about. Currently still sitting at a 2-point victory. We'll see how stack corrections pan out. Juan got his first win of the year in a down week for Harrison. Gave Harrison his first loss, 221 to 214. The Negus in Paris. Nip. Get it? Nip, like Nipsey Hussle. I see what you did there. The Negus in Paris got the victory against the We Got 2 Words For You, Harrison Decker. 7-point victory. Nothing too special or impressive there. It's 2 low scores. Aaron Rodgers did show that he's still Aaron Rodgers, which was probably the difference in this matchup, because I don't think that he was starting in week 2 for Juan. I might be mistaken. Did Juan start Aaron Rodgers in week 2? Juan has been as big of an Aaron Rodgers believer as I've been. Yep, he had Tua starting in week 2, and then Tua got hurt. So kudos to Juan for having 2 quality starting quarterbacks on the roster as a just in case, and we see that panned out for you. Jordan got his first victory, a 264 against Quentin, who put up 199.9, just almost at 200, not quite. Very promising score for Jordan, considering how he started the first 2 weeks. Jamar Chase finally did Jamar Chase things. Joe Burrow finally looked like Joe Burrow. Albeit this was against Washington's pass defense, which was already the last ranked pass defense through the first 2 weeks. Nevertheless, it takes games like that to sometimes get a rhythm when you're a great player, even though they lost. And that bodes well for the rapport of Burrow and Chase down the road, especially with T. Higgins coming back. So, great score from Jordan. Lamar Jackson gave him 27.98, and Zach Charbonnet in backup duty to Kenneth Walker, who we don't know how much longer he's going to be out, but 28.2 points. Kenneth Walker is also on Jordan's roster, so that's a good 1-2 punch if he needs it. And then Sip got his victory against Black Rob that I mentioned earlier to give Black Rob his first loss. Interdivision matchup. So the Jungle has historically been Black Rob's division. I mean, not because this has been my desire, but generally there has not been much competition in the Jungle as there should have been. And I did not think it was going to be Sip providing that competition. But after last season, I was like, yeah, I need to make that move, especially because of Sip's natural rivalry with Jordan as well. So I think that division is well composed as far as rivalry and quality owners. And speaking of that, as I look at all the divisions, I think they're all quality. You know, I wish America's teams had a little bit more, rivalry, trash talk, banter, history. But from these 3 other divisions, I really couldn't see anybody that I put into America's teams that would have fit that criteria. Quincy, relatively quiet, rarely hear from him, probably like 2 handfuls of times a season. D. Will, he'll bark back, but he's not really starting the drama. He just tries to finish it, which is fair. And Zach, we don't ever hear from him unless somebody adds him in the chat or he's DM'd for some kind of trade talk. Deuce, it's refreshing to see you back in the chat, bro. More frequently, even though it's still not very frequent, but without prompt, you've popped out and said some things and talked your trash. So America's teams is probably the least dynamic division in that regard, but all the other 3, I think there's natural built-in rivalry, trash talk, banter, opportunities. So I like how it is. And like I've said in the offseason and the retroactive meetings and in passing, these divisions are static. So whereas the division names and owners may change year to year in Ray and may change year to year in Navy, rap is going to stay pretty static. Unless there's relegation and promotion with significant owners, it's probably going to stay the way that it is. Probably just pluck out and replace one owner at a time. But the Black Hole, the Frozen Tundra, the Jungle, America's teams, I like to build on that legacy long term. So, yeah, that's the recap for rap thus far. I'm at 34 minutes. I did a pretty good job. I'm proud of myself. I mentioned the top scoring owners through 3 weeks in rap. Deuce is number 1. Your commish is number 2. Janine is number 3. Relatively close scores. It's only 17, 18 points between us 3 owners. Then there's a little bit of a drop off to Black Rob at number 4, and CJ is at number 5, which CJ would probably been higher if it wasn't for this dud of a week. Juan is at number 6, which is interesting and impressive, considering his record and his scoring outputs, but 714 to be number 6. And all the way at the bottom, as I mentioned, on the road to relegation in the fast lane is Quentin with 582 points put up. But so it's still a young season. Moves can still be made, trades, and did they win that game? They did win that game. Trades can still be made. Guys are still going to get hurt. Guys are still going to underperform. Pieces are still going to be available on the wire. All that good stuff. And again, in future weeks, I'll be more in depth and in detail with player performances, team trends, things of that nature, transactions, all of that as the weeks go on. So I appreciate y'all patience. I appreciate y'all for being in the league. I hope it's still enjoyable and entertaining for y'all. I should have made some predictions before the season started. But I like I said, a lot going on. I didn't really look at the drafts and the roster constructions prior to the season in the way that I wanted to. So we're just playing this by ear. But we're still going to try to have fun with it. If you got any questions, any comments, any concerns, any doubts, any fears, any prayer requests, any contentions, anything that you want to share with me, your commissioner, hit me up in the DM on Discord or on Messenger on Facebook. I want to keep my text messages and my phone calls in private conversations, one-on-one conversations outside of fantasy football to my cell phone. All right. If it's not about fantasy football, if it is about fantasy football, hit me on Discord or hit me on Facebook Messenger. This helps me to create that good separation. I hope all is going well with y'all going into week 4. We'll see if we get some more trades. Maybe not. Maybe people. I did say that this was one of the best, if not the best, year of drafting across the board in rap. For all 16 owners, so maybe y'all don't feel like y'all need to trade. Some of y'all need to trade. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Love y'all. Holla at y'all later. Peace.